So don't postpone. Register for the already register for the exam, because if you take the exam as close as possible to the boot camp, then the level of the tension that you're in will contribute to your success. You'll be more likely to be close in your questionnaire in your exam to 100 questions than 150, and that's significant. Second, taking the exam before the end of January will leave you enough to retake it, God forbid, if needed, before May. Now, we're not anticipating massive changes as published by ISCNO, but who knows? You don't want to take the chance. So between now and May, you have the chance to take, the exam twice. And I think this, in terms of risk management, is the right choice. So don't let it slide. Don't let it go away. Don't let it fade. Invest in this time. You have less than a couple of months before your exam from today. Do it. Take it.
I want to ask you a question. Probably you have dealt with it. How do you deal with failing the CISSP?
That's actually a very, very good question. I personally failed my CISSP. Right? I failed my first attempt. And I am certified. Oh, you can't see my background, but you saw my background all week. So I am certified for the past few years, and I'm very happy about it. Failure was a disaster, especially when I failed. The score you need to reach in order to pass your CSP 700. So I took the 250 question exam, and that first attempt, it came back at the score. They give you the score if you don't pass the exam, but they don't give you the score if you pass the exam. Just say pass. And I got the score, but unfortunately, you didn't pass the exam, and your score is 697.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's one question. That's one question, and that's crazy. 6 from this. Maybe I'll send an email. Maybe I'll run an appeal or something like that. To make them look at it. No, it's all computer. It's all computer based. No one's going to look at your exam again. That's it. That's your score, 697. You didn't reach the 700. You're not a CISSP, even though you put all the work and everything. This, after recovering, after a couple of weeks of slapping my face and recovering my life. Because I put a lot of effort. Much like you guys, I put my life on hold. 4 kids at home, full-time job, career and everything. And I put everything on hold for 2 months just to pass the exam, and I didn't. So
No, I think he's talking to someone else.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I recovered. I washed my face with ice cold water, and I decided to look at where I got it wrong. And the areas that I got it wrong, and now I know of these areas, are all the areas that I developed for you guys, the easy way to understand. So, for example, Bella Padula and Biba, the risk formula. You will not find it in the book. You could not find it anywhere. And I developed it for myself. And what you basically get now in the bootcamp are my part, big part of the presentations are my notes to myself. So the failure is not really a failure. It's just another experience in my path to success. And look at me now. I train people, and 97% of them pass at the first attempt. Only this week I had 4 students of mine take the exam for the first time, and they just finished the bootcamp a couple of months ago. 4 of them took the exam, 4 of them passed the first trial. That's my win. That's my personal win. So it built me, and I think when you get the failure, you get the slap in the face. It's hard. It's going to be hard to fail the CISSP. Okay? Not something you can avoid if you do your best. Right? But if you fail, let it build you. Don't give up. Register for another exam almost immediately. Just put it out there. That's the goal. You know, you couldn't make it the first time. Don't give up. Don't lose this mistake. You know, yesterday we talked about earning the mistake, earning the incident. You know, make it an investment, right? Domain 7. That's what you should do with the failure in CISSP. Earn that mistake. Make it your next hop. Make it your next jump. Make it your next level in the career. Be better than everybody else. And you know, once I developed myself those notes and helped myself remember the levels of classification and the risk formula and the different laws for privacy and security, because there are different laws for this one is for security, this one for privacy, this is criminal, this is civil, you know, and the access control, the MAC and DAC, and they can work with, all these things that we talk about, the incident management, you know, it's not presented this way in the ISC materials and in ISC bootcamps. So I developed this for myself, and now it's yours. So I think, you know, failing the CISSP is hard, but if you play it right, it can be one of the good things that happen in your careers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just another card to play.
That was so motivational, really.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's all about that. And yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers, you see that CISSP certified people are now most likely to earn 20% more than others, more than their peers. So if every one of you had a CISSP certification, you know, you'd be down, you know, when you make the career change, you can ask for more money and people will pay more money. I know that I pay more money as an employer. I have 14 employees in CyTech. I pay more money for certified people because it helps me with tenders, with price proposals, with, you know, with the presentation of my company, my brand, that we are all certified.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Let me show you. Let me share this with you. The way we write price proposals, just so you can understand how it's perceived on on the employer side. Let me share this with you. This. Okay, so this is a price proposal for Amdocs. I don't know if you're familiar with Amdocs. Amdocs is one of the largest software development companies in the world. They started with billing, but now they do a lot more. They do cloud services, even security cloud services. So this is really the cover letter of every proposal of CyTech. Okay, and I'm saying following this, this is CyTech, we do CISO, we do this internationally, but look at how I describe our people, you know, our consultants, you know, all internationally certified. And I get asked, how are they internationally certified? And when I present the team, I present them with their certifications. You know, I can use those logos in my price proposals. And these organizations will buy just because they know that, you know, there's someone behind you. It's not like you're testing on yourself. This is what we do. Okay. There is a stamp. There is a validation for what you do, for what you know you do to do. So employers are willing to pay more money for you guys when you are certified. And, you know, one thing that will definitely happen to you as you pass your CISSP exam is that you will want more. You will not be satisfied with just one certification. You'll say, okay, you know, I got this. I'm in the mood. I can get more. You know, get one or two more. And there are more certifications that you can get. There's the CISM and the CIRSP and the GISP and others that are all part of the CISSP. You know, the CISSP includes a lot more than just the CISSP itself. You can leverage this knowledge, you can leverage this experience to take a couple more certificates, and then your resume looks different. You know, So I
I
highly
don't
recommend
think.
them. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about, yeah, I mean, passing the test, getting more money. For me, actually, I mean, it's important, of course, but one thing that I'm missing, I don't know if from the bootcamp or from the material, is sometimes we're missing the point on how to implement what we learn in real life, because you know, they put a lot of materials. I'm personally always trying to ask, give me an example, because
You're right. You're right. This is theory.
yeah,
The book is theoretical.
yeah,
The book can be theoretical. We don't do practice. We don't do real life experience. I agree with you. For that reason, the supplemental, there's the certifications on one side, and I'm talking about my personal mission here. Failing that CISSP back in 2010 did something to me. And I worked to make it more accessible to others. But it also did that part where you exactly on that point that I was many years ago when I started the CISO training program. Because I said there are these certificates and it's all wonderful, but let's take it to real life. And actually, what I do today is both together. So I personally have another training program which is 9 months for CISOs, includes the theoretical stuff for the CSSP, so people from that program can actually take the CSSP like that, and CSM and others, but it also practical. So my students will sit in a class 4 hours in the afternoon from 5 to 9. We do this under the umbrella of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and the School of Business Administration. They actually sponsored part of the operation, and they supervise, academically supervise on the materials and the relevancy of this, and they actually grant a certification of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. So you pass this. It's not a boot camp. It's 2 semester long training program, and at the end of the day, at the end of it, you will get the real life experience that you need. You practice almost from class one. So we learn the theory, and then we practice, and you work with the network. And we are fully booked. We just started one on November 1st, and our classes are up to 25 students. We got 25, and we got another 22 in the waiting list. So we're thinking of opening another class, another training program on March. We have an attendee from Portugal. This guy works for the Israeli Foreign Ministry, and he sits in Portugal in Lisbon, and he attends remotely in the training program. So we have people from all over the world. Ran trained with my CISO certification program. Ran was one of my students. And during the certification program, during the CISO training, he took the CISM and the CISSP and passed. So yes, there are other offers. If you're interested in that, any one of you, I'll be more than happy to elaborate later.
let's first that's the CISSP.
Yes, let's
But
first
it's
do that.
interesting,
That's
yeah.
our goal. That's our goal. Okay, so how do we
Thanks
do
for
that?
this information. This is really, really useful. And if you said also it's because we are sitting in Germany, if you said that we can also do it remotely, that's amazing.
Yes, and okay, and here's the thing. We train that under the Hebrew University in Jerusalem in Hebrew. Okay, that part I think will be relevant for you, Shachar. But if Valentino, Jega, Carlo, you want to also attend that, we also have a training program with the Denver University. Okay, and that one I personally train in English. So, you make the choice.
Or you can
Definitely English.
or you can learn
Or,
Hebrew.
or you can try and take a couple of classes in Hebrew. Who
Bro,
knows?
I can barely learn German as it is currently.
Yeah. We're all struggling with it.
You know what? I worked in Angola with the language in Angola is Portuguese.
Yes.
I don't know. I know a few words here and there, but I understand everything they say. And I find out about me, this thing about me, as I travel the world and hear different languages, I immediately catch the phrases, you know, the way they talk, so I can understand what they say. So I think in Germany, I don't know, Carlo, maybe you can challenge us with German sentences now, but I can probably understand what he says or what he wanted to say. I wouldn't be able to repeat that. I wouldn't be able to talk or not to mention write anything. But it's just, you know, the ability to catch the message. A good idea to try this in CISSP in Hebrew and see, you know, where it takes you. That can be an opportunity, Valentino.
Could be, but I don't want to struggle at the moment.
Any challenge in your life is an opportunity.
True.
All right. So, what are our plans for today?
Domain.
Yes, domain 8. We're gonna complete the 8th domain today. But I also want to do something else with you. I want to simulate a CISSP exam today, 3 hours. 3 hours. Valentino, I like the reaction. Wow. Yeah, so you're going to sit in a full scale CISSP exam, 150 questions, 3 hours, start to finish. You know, if you want to take a break, no problem, but it's on you. Time is running out. Okay, so I want you to experience the time management and the material control that you will need to have in order to take your CISSP. Yes, this is something you can do on your own, but it also contributes to your experience when you do it in a group and you know that I'm supervising, that I'm looking at your exam as you take it. Okay, it's not free range, you know, take it whenever you want. I'm looking at what you do. This will create more pressure on you, and this will push you to the edge and a bit farther. Okay, so I want you to go through this experience today. So let's plan around wrapping up domain 8, I don't know, in the next hour or two. Then we run a review on, you know, areas that you think that are still open. Take the lunch break, and after lunch break, we're going to take the 3 hours CISSP exam. Okay, so let's commit to that. Okay, this is our plan for today. All right.
Let me just check how high this window is quickly.
By the way, about what you told us to do yesterday, I have to give you a feedback. I mean, you told us to sit together and do the test. So I called Valentino. I told him, come over, let's sit on some tests together. And I have to say, doing it in pair, it's sometimes more confusing.
Yes.
Than do it by yourself, you know, because yeah. I have one opinion, Valentino has the second opinion, and for some answers we just flip the coin.
That's called brainstorming. That's exactly what I wanted you to have. It's exactly the experience you need to have in order for you to sharpen your knowledge. You flip the coin, that's fine, but now you got an answer. You can go back to that and defend your position. If you got it right in your position and the coin flip on Valentino's side, okay, now you can better defend your position. But if you got it wrong and Valentino got it right, you have the chance to learn from his way of thinking. Mm-hmm. That's the whole idea of working in groups, you know, learn from others. Okay, because there's so much we can do on our own, and that's another thing that I personally learned from my failure in the first attempt. The first attempt, I took the material, I sat in the bootcamp, and I took the material, I took it home, and I was like, I can do it on my own. You know, I can do it myself. And I did. And I was doing very good. Practice exams, everything was in hand back then, okay? It was not as computerized as we have that today. By the way, this is, again, something that is behind this class marker. I want to make it more accessible for others to simply take an exam. You know, you don't need to print anything. You don't need to sit in a room. You can just take it on your phone. You know, 20 questions, just take an exam.
I did that on the bus. I did that on the bus this morning when I took 2 exams.
What's that?
Cool. So I did that on the bus when I took 2 exams.
Yeah, and you can pause and you can resume later. You know, so you know, that experience, learning by myself and almost making it, you know, who knows? Maybe if I would sit with Jega and we would both spend a couple of months, you know, maybe an hour here and an hour there, not too much, but if I had a partner to work with, maybe that was the missing part. Maybe that could give me that one question to pass my first attempt. But I am so grateful that I didn't, because it drove me to the, you know, farther edge than what I was before then. So yes, work in a group, find a partner, work together. You know, make the group on WhatsApp a brainstorming group. Share your experience. You learn something new, share that. You find out a way on remembering Bella Padula and Biba, share that on the group. You know, make it accessible for everyone, and let's make each other better. I think that's the whole purpose of the group.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how about we started with domain 8? And that was really good feedback, Shafal. Thank you for this, for the feedback. By the way, I want you guys to go to our shared directory, and I'm going to show you here. I'm not sure if you saw that today, but I put some more materials there for you. And I also upload all videos for all sessions that we have.
Oh, that's
Okay, so
amazing.
this one is accessible for you, and you can actually download from here. And I think the first time that I shared information, the shared documents with you, I shared the first 7. Today I added 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 5 more documents that you can work with, that I just find online, and I think it's very important. This one, by the way, is the reporting structure maturity of us, of CyTech, something that we built. And it's very helpful for CISOs worldwide, but it also has representation in the CISSP, the beginning of CISSP, as they describe the different roles of security personnel. So you have the CISO in the high maturity level. By the way, this is from the CISO training program as well. So you have the CISO, and he is a peer to the CIO. And under the CISO, you have all this organization. This is the high maturity. Okay, so medium maturity will be a CISO that reports to the CIO. And again, it has a representation in the CISSP at the beginning of everything. And as you can see, you know, again, the representation of what is security operation, everything that we learned yesterday. So that would be the medium maturity for that matter. And the low maturity is simply saying I have someone dealing with security. Everything is legit. Okay, the fact that it's low, medium, and high doesn't make it less important than others or less useful by others. It's just the fact that over 70% of the organizations are probably here in the medium maturity. That's a survey run worldwide. Most organizations worldwide will have this type of structure for security, and contributes to the understanding of how you know, we can actually anticipate those areas in security addressed by senior management. So you have this documents here, the 12 documents, and every recording of every session we had together, and you will have today's sessions as well uploaded as we do them, as we take them. All right, guys? So just let me know that you can actually access this and download it for your use. Again, it's for your own use. So please keep the copyright and everything that we have there, you know, be respectful of that, that we want to continue doing for others, and, you know, not hurting our ability to make some income for this. Are we all good?
And question.
Yeah.
Regarding the book, actually, the document number 2 is exactly the book we did receive, right?
Yep, it is.
1-to-1.
Yep, and it helps you search in it. So instead of, you know, going through the book, this is a soft copy of the book.
Yeah, okay.
And you can find that online. I mean, it's out there. I simply download it for you, and, you know, not put the number 2 next to it.
Just wanted to confirm that this is the actual book because I've put it already on the Kindle, reading it. So just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, there's this I want to show you this one because this one no, the other one I think it's number 8. This guy here did something. Oh, sorry about that. Did something amazing. I mean, he took the book, okay, the 7th edition, the previous edition of the book that we started with, which is not that different from the current book, and he rewrote them. Okay, so he made it, instead of 1,600 pages, he made it 158 pages. All right. So this is the short version of the book that you hold, with everything that is inside the book here as well. Not his language, but the language of the book. But again, making it easier for you to work with. And he's saying he's not an affiliate, and he's not, this is a free digital document. All right. So you can work with it and get the idea of what is what. Right, the important stuff.
For me, I think the best document here is the cheat sheet. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
It just the format is a little bit not printable. I mean, it's missing some stuff. I'm trying to find
this one.
Yeah.
And can I guess why this is the easier? This is the one you like?
Yeah.
Because it has 8 pages.
Yeah.
It's the shortest one and includes everything. And I agree. I like this. This is short and easy, but remember that the CISSP is not short at all. So don't.
No, of course, but I think for just for a glossary, the glossary and cheat sheet is always nice. I want to do. I try to print it. It just there is a problem with the format. I need to find the right format, but I want to just tape it to the wall, so I can look at it.
I think this will be your list. Should be your list.
Yeah.
So you put it on your wall and start marking those areas that you control. And then you focus yourself on those areas that you're not in control, and then put the effort there.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, guys. So let's begin with our domain 8. Today's last domain. Okay, so domain 8 is all about software development security. It includes 2 chapters, okay? The second chapter, chapter 21, which is also the last chapter in the book, is by far the shortest chapter of the book. So I kind of widened it a little bit. I added more information to it, which is basically the OWASP top 10. There is a representation for the OWASP top 10 throughout the CISSP, as we previously saw, but there's no actual mention and count of all OWASP top 10, and I wanted to put it in that one place for you, just to be able to see the whole OWASP top 10, and we will talk about what is OWASP top 10 and how it can help us as security professionals and as CISSPs. So let's start with chapter 20. Chapter 20 is software development security. Is everybody with us? Because I don't see Carlo and I don't see Shachar. Oh, Carlo is here.
I just went to bring water. Sorry.
Okay, cool. If you guys want to take a break, just let me know, okay, so we can pause this and take a break for everyone. So where do we start? Security in databases, security in systems. We start from with the area that is most vulnerable to security, those security vulnerabilities that are inherited from the application, from the system, from the software that we implemented, we bought, we had another, or we use on the cloud. The database is where we store everything, okay? And since we are here to provide protection, CIA, on the information of the data, okay? So everything starts from that position, and we look at the database as the holy grail. And there's no other way to look at it, but it's just look a couple of years back, or even the last year, and everything that happened in terms of security breaches worldwide. Almost every time that there's a security breach, there is a database involved. Because a database includes a lot of information that we can take, we can run, we can build our own database, we can make assumptions, we can work with it. This is knowledge. The more advanced technologies become, the quicker communication worldwide, the more and more data is being collected. The more users on social media, the more users on the cloud, the more information we have, and the more data is gathered on the behavior, on what they like and what they don't like, and how we can benefit from them. So the data is not collected just because someone wants to spy on people, but it's collected to make more money from areas that are not exploited, business-wise until today. There are opportunities out there to make more money just by building these huge databases that now can contribute to us. There is a saying about.
It's interesting, by the way, that they left it chapter to the last, because the way that I see it, always the application and the database are less secured all the time, and there's always if you always there's a lot of network security products and procedures and policies and everything, but always the database and the applications are the most vulnerable, and there's the least products or security controls to protect them.
Yeah, I agree, but remember that the CISSP is not linear. So you can start with each domain. It's accessible for everyone. You can start with domain 8. And I think there is some sort of representation for the data and database security throughout the CISSP, the other chapters as well. And I think we touched on database security when we talked about domain 5. We talked about subject and object, and we talked about database security, and we also talked about the importance of data classification back in domain 2. So it is here. It's more it's more more in that environment that is really drilling down into application security and database security. So as we look at databases, we need to consider that a database can be an Excel spreadsheet, but it can also be a database of databases, okay? The database of Facebook, of Google. And these databases, at the end of the day, they all act the same. And the way we are looking at databases today is from the management system. And for that matter, most databases today that you will encounter, and most databases that are relevant for the CISSP, are considered relational databases. Okay, so there's some sort of relationship between the records and the way it's structured, and the RDBMS, Relational Database Management System, is the key to providing security on the relational database itself. So let's look at the structure of a database and the definition that ISC would like us to know and remember. I built this table based on one of the boot camps that I had with 10 of my students. They were very happy to see that, at the end of the day, all of them passed the exam. All right. But what I did here, and with their permission, obviously, I used their name, and some of the information that I could share, some of the information is just made up, so you won't know who's who and where they actually live in, if they took the exam, yes or no, and if they passed. But this is just a made up database. It's an Excel spreadsheet with 10 records, and people behind it with age and address and CISSP grade at the end of the day. This is what we call a table. Okay, we can have a table, many tables in a single database, much like an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, I'm going back to the simple examples. Excel spreadsheet is the most simple example that I can give you for relational database. I can have few sheets within one worksheet, right? And I can create relations between those sheets, right? The same thing here. Every table, every sheet acts as a unique sheet. And why is that? Because it has its own records and its own what we get to in a second, primary identifiers. Okay, so primary keys. So looking at this table, what we can say is that this is a table. Okay, it includes records. However, it includes a lot more indications that we can now start working in as we do security. The first one is what we call a row, okay, or a record. For that matter, remember the word tuple, okay, T-U-P-L-E. Tuple is a row, it's a record. And a record in a database is not a single field. Even a field is not a field as we know it today because it's a generic name, and we will get to that in a second. So a tuple, row, record, how many of these do we have here?
10.
10, exactly. In relation to those records, we have what we call polyinstantiation. Okay, as you read through the book, you will get to this term called polyinstantiation. What we basically say is that in polyinstantiation, and going back to the table, is what we say that a single subject can access row number 3, and based on their permission, they can look at the primary key, which is the identifier, but they now can look at only the name and age. Another subject with another set of permission can in parallel, okay, run an instant on the database that can now show them the primary record, the primary key, the identification, name, age, address, and CISSP grade. So there can be more than one instance on the same record. This is polyinstantiation. Okay, poly is many. All right. Polyinstantiation, we can have multiple views of the same information depending on the clearance level. Okay, so 2 subjects or more running queries on the same database, on the same line, on the same row, getting different results. Okay, or accumulated results based on their clearance level and permissions. Does that make sense, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I know that you have encountered, some of you, and encountered this type of question. What is polyinstantiation? Okay, we have polymorphism. We will talk about that today as well when we talk about viruses. When we get those questions, what ISC tends to do is try to confuse us with other definition of another word that sounds the same, and that's the way they try to manipulate our brain. Okay, column/fields/attributes are all the same definition. So I'm expecting someone to jump and say, no, a field is a box. And you're right. A field is a box if it's connected to the primary key, if it's connected to the identifier, all right? Without the identifier, the field is the whole column. So I can ask you, bring me the address field without, with no relation to the identifier. What will you bring back to me? The whole column of address, right? The address field is the whole column. So you need to remember this as you look at trouble security vulnerabilities and injection, for example. We will talk about SQL injection. You know, running a query and asking for this field with no relation to the identifier, with no relation to the primary key. This will bring back the whole column. So a column is also a field and also an attribute. When IC asks you about attributes in a database, they're looking at the whole column. Okay? Is this clear, guys? All right. It's very important. That's why I'm emphasizing this, because this is the kind of questions that you can expect with them. You know, there are, again, as a person that actually writes those questions for the CISO training program and others, you look at this and you understand that you have so many opportunities to write confusing questions here. You know, try and mess up with the head of those candidates to say, okay, how do I make them not pass the exam, or how do I make their confidence less than what they bring to the exam? Because ISC wants to maintain their statistics of 50% pass rate, all right?
So Kenny, again, a column, a field is the crossing of like the adding of ID and column. But if I don't have an ID, field can be the entire column, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So what is an attribute?
The same thing.
The same thing. Field is an
the
attribute.
Same. Yes. Just like probability and likelihood. Just like row, record, and tuple.
Yeah. Okay.
So the same thing. All right. Null value. We mentioned null value when we talked about cryptography, and we saw that example of the message. The CISSP is the #1 certificate. And we saw that there are spaces there. Okay. So null value represents a value that in a field that appears to be blank. Okay. However, if we have the representation of a space, which means that we have some sort of an ASCII representation behind it, or a 0 in a table, that is not a null value. Okay? So this is really important here, this sentence here. Null value is different than a 0 or a field that contains spaces. All right? It's not null. Are we good, guys? All right. Let's talk about the keys, because we mentioned the keys, and now the keys represent a lot of the relation actions that we can take on that table, on the database. So every database will include one set of primary keys. So there can only be one. And those primary keys are unique. We cannot have the same key for 2 records, okay, for 2 lines. All right, so only one. And they all start with a representation that is sequential, most likely sequential. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay? The primary key, again, is a unique key. And it's that key that we need in order to query the database. All right? The secondary keys, where's Jega? Jega is lost. Where are you, Jega? The secondary keys can be any other column or field, right, for that matter, and there can be more than one. I mean, there can be non-unique representation of those keys. And let's look at the table. We have primary keys. They're all unique. We have secondary keys. Look at the names. The names are unique, right? For that matter. But let's the secondary keys of age. You can have more than one representation of the number 30, right? And we can have more than one representation of Haifa in the address column as a secondary key. And we can have more than one representation of the grade 800. Do you see that? Or 880, right? And that gives me that helps me understand that this database can contain numbers and repetitive values in it, but not here, not in the primary key. The primary key doesn't have to be the one that we start with, okay? It doesn't have to be that first one on the left. Jega, we missed you, Jega.
Sorry, there was some technical issues here.
That's cool. No, I'm repeating myself because it's really important. Primary keys are unique. Secondary keys can be the same in many areas, in many rows, in many records. So we can have more than one 800 CISSP exam, more than one representation of Haifa, or more than one representation of the H30 as a secondary key, but the primary key is always unique. And also, primary keys, the column for the primary keys does not have to be the first we start with, does not have to be the first on the left. All right? So they can show you a table and the primary, and they will not let you know which one is the primary key, okay? The primary key can be the age. What you need to do is look for the unique keys, one time, one use, all right? Are we all good, guys?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now let's look at threats of databases, because we mentioned them before. If you remember, we talked about database security. We talked about aggregation. So the aggregation is the sum of the information, okay, that can be higher at a higher level than each of the part. So let's say that I'm in a clearance level that can actually see the client name in a bank, but I'm in a different clearance level that can actually see their balance. Okay, so for some clients I will see the balance, with some clients I will not see the balance, simply because of that clearance level. So what I do is, I take record by record and create my own database. And now, instead of being able to observe one record at a time, with or without a balance, now I can see everybody in the bank, everyone on the list, the client list of the bank. This is creating my own database. Aggregation is an issue, is a threat when you accumulate information of the same security clearance. Okay? And you have the example here of how we can, execute this threat. Inference is the ability is when you do multiple queries on the same database, and you then have the ability to conclude new information. So it's not information that exists in the database. It's not information that you retrieve from the database, but it's information that you concluded based on the records and database that you were exposed to. All right, guys? That's the inference. That's the higher level of threat for databases. We had aggregation, which is collecting the records, and then we have inference, which is making conclusions. All right? Okay, cool. Now let's move to the application side. Okay, so the application is the other side of database. We started with databases, but databases need some sort of application to work with them to present the data. So for the application, we can have systems, and we call them expert systems or neural networks today. Expert systems are basically based on the if and then type of AI. It's not really AI. It's not artificial intelligence. It's more, if this happens, then this is the consequence, or this is the next term that we need to check, and so on. So it's based on the knowledge of the programmer, of the developer. Neural networks, they have more ability to make conclusions. So if you make expert systems are more, they remind us the aggregation of information, and neural networks will remind us the inference of information. Does this make sense, guys? Neural networks will help you make conclusions, okay? And they will make conclusions and make decisions, kind of more automated decisions, as they work as applications. They're a bit smarter. I don't agree with the term artificial intelligence on computers. I don't agree that there's such a thing as a smart computer. At the end of the day, it's all computers, ones and zeros, and it's a machine. But that's just my philosophy, my point of view. You don't have to agree with it, but as you think about neural networks, don't think that this can do everything for you, okay? Definitely not everything, definitely not in security. We use them, but we don't rely just on them. So more on application security, we talk about system development methods, frameworks. The system development models that we have a couple more in the book, but those are the main three. First one is waterfall module. Second one is spiral model, and then the agile development models. The agile is the one we want to use today, even though there are many other organizations that still use waterfall and spiral. They're just less effective for immediate results, okay? They're effective for big organizations that have development teams, and they simply develop without considering a client's unique request. Organizations like Amdocs, for example, they work on agile mode, okay? So the waterfall module is a module of when we develop this program and we work internally, so each team passes the ball to the next team, and then we get to complete a cycle and test the application developed, and then we say, okay, we got it right, and then we go to the user, then we go to the client. So it's kind of the waterfall. The idea is that we can always only go back one step. We cannot go back all the way out, much like we can do in the agile model. The spiral model took the waterfall model and made it shorter, so you don't have to develop the whole system before you present it to the client. You simply develop a function and you share it with the client. So it's shorter phases of development and more communication with the client. However, the cycle is completed before it's presented to the client. Every cycle is completed. What the agile approach came to say is that when I work on agile, every part of development, every phase, I'm not completing a cycle, every phase, the user is involved, the client is involved, and they state their mind, and they share their experience, the user experience on the user interface. It's big on that area. So we get more feedback, immediate feedback, and we invest in communication and collaboration, which are the two keys to do security, right? So again, agile drives more communication and collaboration with the users. Waterfall is more independent development module, and spiral includes some collaboration and communication with the user, but not as effective as agile. Are we all good there? All right.
Yeah.
So for software development, we also have some maturity models. And if we remember, I mentioned the maturity models of organizations, security organizations. For this one, we also have maturity models, and the main two that you need to focus on are the CMMI and IDEAL. The CMMI, the Capability Maturity Model Integration, is a process level improvement training and appraisal program, and we use that in security. So it all starts with level 1 and then goes all the way up to level 5 and talk about the controls. So the controls are initial. That means that processes are unpredictable, poorly controlled, and reactive. That's the lowest level of maturity of controls, of development program. And then controls in a development program will be managed when the processes are characterized for projects and are often reactive. Often, okay, they're not always reactive, but they're often reactive. And then we go up to define. Defined is when processes are characterized for the organization and are proactive and quantitatively managed, means that we are in control. Processes measured and controlled. Now, some organizations will satisfy with level 4. Not all organizations will thrive to level 5, okay? Some organizations will say, okay, this is enough for me. For the clients that pay me, I don't want to do more than that because every level here will cost me money. However, if your client is willing to pay for this, you can definitely offer them to go all the way to up to level 5, which is optimizing, which means the focus on processes is for improvement. This contributes to our organization and not the client themselves per se. Okay, this maturity model is used today in a lot of organizations, in a lot of areas that are not necessarily security and are not necessarily software development. It's being used for project management and other areas as well. Okay, but again, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just simply using methods that are out there. The second software development maturity model that you need to consider is the ideal. Okay, the ideal includes 5 phases. I added one of my own, the first one. Okay, all right, but let's look at the 5 phases to begin with. Ideal stands for initiating. Someone initiated something. All right, the software development was initiated. Diagnosing the needs and the current state and desired state and all that, and then establishing priorities and approach and a plan. Acting and learning. The acting one is creating the solution, testing the solution, refine the solution, and then learning means that we keep evolving, we keep doing good, better stuff than what we did yesterday. So we analyze and validate and propose future actions to become better. Looking at the ideal, excuse me, looking at the ideal software development maturity model, I was missing a phase. Personally, I was missing a phase. That's why I added, before the initiation comes in, okay, I added the change. The initiation of a software development started with a need. Okay, somebody had something to say about something that doesn't work for them or requires a solution. This is a change slash, I want you to write it down in your presentation, a change slash an opportunity. Okay, this one, phase 1. There's an opportunity, and that's where your question might start. Okay, what drives the first phase of ideal software security maturity model is a change. And the change, as you remember, starts from configuration management. Do you remember that? There is the configuration, the ongoing routine, and then something happens, some bump in the road, okay? Somebody needs to change something, all right? So that's the opportunity here for phase 1 that starts, that ignites the whole process of ideal, right? I think that's a better way to remember the ideal itself. And then as we look at agile and we look at the maturity models, those maturity models help us do better implementation in much earlier phases around security. So you have, for example, you have the methodology called SDLC, Software System Development Lifecycle. In past few years, we added the letter S before it, so we have SSDLC, which is Secure System Development Lifecycle, Secure Software Development Lifecycle, which means that now, as we do the design, the initiation, and the consideration of the current state and desired state, as seen in the ideal, we simply add security requirements to it. To the whole analysis, we add now security, all right? The XP, the extreme programming, that means that one programs while the other assists and verify adherence to the spec. So this is more on the agile part. Very quick, very easy to implement. We have one developer and the other development peer is testing them. So it's not, it's first of all, it's redundant. Job rotation, cross-training, and everything that we mentioned before, but this also contributes to the fast pace of development. You develop and then pass it on to your friend to test. This guy develops and then pass it back to you to test, and you test each other. There's no dependency here. There's no non-objective sides here, and you can be fast for the user, fast for the growth. Okay, there's a lot around that. Scrum meetings, and I'm sure if you've been around application development or system development of some sort, you're all familiar with that approach of Scrum, working together in small teams, and that contributes to the XP, extreme programming approach that we've seen, and all this is around Agile. So as you can see, CISSP drives Agile approach. ISC is a big fan of the Agile approach. It means a lot for your exam, okay? It means that as you read through the software development questions, domain 8 questions, know that ISC would like you as a professional to be in the Agile approach. Does that make sense?
The Agile approach is basically less secure, right?
No. Security can exist in all, but the Agile approach is much more efficient to the business. We save money, we make more money, and we work in small teams, small groups, and we drive communication and collaboration. So in the eyes of ISC, this is the better way to do software development. It even drives more security than others. Okay, it's not like the waterfall when you involve the user at the end of the game and you implement the, Microsoft used to do that. They still do that with some of their products, unfortunately, but they used to do that with all their products when there was time to market. And they simply sold those Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows 2000, we thought that one was a secure one. And then after 6 months, you get a service pack, a package of patches of something, that we missed. And for security in the development process. So as they move now to more agile approach, they do a lot more security. Okay. Yeah. So I want you guys to remember the configuration management and change control, the parking lot with all the white cars, and all of a sudden in one morning we find a red car. You remember that? So the configuration management starts before the development phases take place. Okay. This is the constant situation. This is no change happens there. There's a need for a change, and that's where we document the change and the review board and all that and all the processes. And part of the change is the development of a system, of a software. Okay, so software development, domain 8, is generally speaking a change. All right. So you want to manage this change. What do you do with the change? First, you document it, okay, because you want to be able to roll back. You report, you work with others. See, all of this is a representation of a change of software development, okay? So software development, domain 8 equals change, all right? Maybe you should write it down. Domain 8 equals change management, all right? Testing your software. Do we need a break? Yeah, I think we do. Let's take a 15-minute break. All right.
Okay.
So we'll be back here at 10:26:27. All right.
Okay.
All right, guys. I'll see you then. All right.